Hey guys, um, hope all is going well with everybody. And today I am going to cook with you guys. Because we're talking about adulting this week, part of adulting is being able to, cook something and feed yourself. So I have posted or will be posting some kind of like basics for cooking, such as I guess like not putting tin foil in the microwave and starting the microwave on fire or things like that. But today I'm gonna like cook something that I usually like to make during the fall or during the winter, a soup, because it's pretty easy. However, I happen to have everything around the house right now, and when you're cooking, you should be flexible, and it's something that, obviously you need to survive because you need to eat, but also you can have fun with, and you don't, you can be flexible, like I said. So if I'm looking at a recipe and maybe I don't have all of the ingredients in a recipe, I can like mix things up. So, trade things out. Today, like the soup that I'm making today, I would normally put in, green chilies, and I would like dice up some onions and put some onions in there. However, I do not have those around, so I'm just going to have to do without. I'm using a lot of canned goods in the recipe that I'm making. Like I said, I like to make it because it can be like relatively easy. You can, if you're feeling pretty comfortable, you can try and, create this whole homemade thing based on all fresh ingredients. You can make your own spice mixtures. So, I'm going to turn on the oven. I'm using a good sized pan. Usually when I'm cooking soups and stuff like that, I like to make really big batches, so that way I can, separate them out and freeze them to eat later, which might be, A, it's a time saver for you, and B, it's a money saver. And it's nice to have kind of extra meals lying around the house. So I'm using a relatively good pan, or big pan, I should say. Turning the oven on. I hope you know how to use your oven if you're doing this. So I'm probably gonna put it on medium to get it warmed up here. Typically in the beginning when I'm doing this recipe, I would add some oil in. I usually use like an extra virgin olive oil or like a vegetable oil. Today I'm going to use olive oil. I'm not measuring this. I'm going to guess that it's about 2-ish tablespoons. I would have my onions diced up, and once the oil gets hot, I would put the onions in there and kind of saute them. So you've got it on about medium heat. And when you're sauteing onions in an oil or in a butter, you kind of toss them around a little bit until they start getting a little bit translucent, or like not looking quite as white. They might start looking a little bit more clear. And then the other thing that I would do is, I'm using chicken in this recipe. You could probably use different meats if you want to. I've never done it that way. Most times when I'm cooking it, I'm starting off with like raw chicken breast. However, today, because I had a bunch of grilled chicken that's left over, I'm just going to use that, and I've already chopped it up. You could also make it really easy. If you prefer chicken thighs or anything like that, you can substitute that. Sometimes when you go to the grocery store, you might find like those whole pre-cooked chickens that are really nice, and sometimes like I'll get 1 or 2 of those and just pull those apart, and you can freeze the meat and use that in all sorts of different recipes. So you could shred that up and use that in here too, which would make things really easy if you're not really familiar with how to cook it. And I've already got my chicken all cut up, cooked and diced, and I'm going to toss that in here. Let's see. So I'm going to get this. Be careful when you're using oils, because sometimes they splatter. since this is already cooked, I'm just trying to get it to kind of warm up. And then the other thing that I have is, in this recipe, I like to use black beans, and I also use tomatoes. So I'm using canned everything. I do not drain my beans. I just toss them in there with the juice and everything. They're already cooked. If you were comfortable, you could buy, it's cheaper to buy like uncooked, like a bag of uncooked beans, and you can, cook those up. That's a great way of saving money. I'm using 2 cans of black beans. I'm going to use 2 cans of petite diced tomatoes. I've already got all my cans open, so we're saving a little bit of time here. And then normally at this time is when I would add in my green chilies. I'm kind of disappointed I don't have those because they're really, really yummy in this. And then I'm also adding corn. So I use just like a bag of frozen corn, and I throw it in there frozen. I'm not measuring this out either, guys. Sorry. In the recipe that I give you, I'll give you an amount. And something that's a little different that I'm doing today that I don't normally do is I'm adding in a can of tomato sauce, because the recipe that I'm looking at called for tomato sauce and it sounded like a good idea, so we're going to try that. When you're cooking, don't worry about making things perfect. Part of the fun of cooking is kind of learning as you go and trying new things out and experimenting. So this is hot. The handles are hot, so be careful. I'm gonna stir this up. And it's pretty thick here. So got a lot of corn, I see a lot of beans. Good mixture of chicken and tomatoes and all that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do next, let's see what else do I have on my list, is add chicken broth. So you can either buy chicken broth already, the cans of chicken broth or the little boxes of chicken broth. I usually keep like bouillon around the house because it's easier and it takes up less room than having a ton of cans of chicken. Sometimes I buy, the stuff that you can keep in the fridge. Sometimes I buy the off-brand bouillon cubes. And what you do with this is you just mix this in water. So it says 1 teaspoon essentially 1 teaspoon of this per cup of water. So right now I'm going to start off with 4 cups. So we got 4 cups of water, and I'm going to, again, not measure anything, but you probably should if you've never cooked before. And I'm going to guesstimate. So I said 4 teaspoons to 4 cups. This looks-ish right. Yep. That's how we're going to play that game. And I'm going to turn it up. Now that I've got my stuff in there, you can turn it up higher, and you're going to want to eventually get it to like a boiling. So I'm going to mix that in there, and as it cooks, my bouillon will kind of disperse and get in there evenly. And then the last thing I'm going to add, no, not the last thing, I lied. One of the last things I like to add, this makes my life way easier, is just like taco seasoning. So I buy mine in bulk because it's cheaper, and normally I just totally eyeball this like I do everything else. Today, for your sake, I'm going to measure it, and it's going to take forever, but I think I'm planning on using like a 1/4-ish cup of taco seasoning to make it nice and flavorful. Looks pretty good. We're going to dump that in there and stir it around. And if I end up adding more, I'll let you know. That smells pretty good. So when I cook, I usually enjoy myself, and I like to turn on maybe some music to help me relax. But I'm gonna get this going and get it to boiling, and then once I get it to boiling, I'm going to turn it back down to simmer. When you are doing soups, something like this, or like a spaghetti sauce or something, once you get it to boiling, you turn it on to simmer, and you can let it simmer for, you know, really as long as you like, and the longer you let it simmer, the more the flavors of your different ingredients kind of come together. So I'm going to do that, and then we will come back and see how things go. So another thing that I like to use and have around is like, white vinegar. I just buy like the off-brand, and I like to buy it really big. It's really super cheap, and you can use this for like cleaning pretty much anything. So if you Google, you know, vinegar and cleaning, it's incredible everything that can be done with like some vinegar and some other things that you might have around the house. All right, guys. My soup got to boiling, and I turned it down to simmer. I ended up adding a little bit of salt, so I'm going to put in the recipe, I'm going to say salt to taste, because I know everybody kind of likes their food a little bit different. Some people like it saltier than others. I don't like mine too salty, so remember that when you're cooking, you can always add more. So start off less and taste, you know, to make sure that you like it, because you can't take it back once you put it in there. And I have learned that the hard way. So then the last ingredient that I put in there was some cheese. You can use, you know, shredded cheddar. You can use, you know, shredded, really whatever kind of cheese. I usually have some sort of cheese on hand. I like to use Velveeta. I use it pretty regularly in like soups or in macaroni and cheese or whatever. So I've always got, I usually always have Velveeta around. It's good for dips too. So I kind of am chopping it up into smaller pieces so it melts a little bit quicker, and I'm probably using about 8 ounces or so of Velveeta, and I'm gonna keep that in there while it's simmering, guys, and let that go. So here is the recipe. As promised, I am gonna send this out as a separate attachment as well, so you can print it if you like to use it that way. The soup turned out really yummy. However, I forgot to take a picture because I was so hungry and just started eating it. So I attached this picture under the recipe. It's pretty accurate as to what your soup will turn out looking like. However, if you choose not to drain your black beans, it does end up looking a little bit darker. So that's kind of up to you depending on how you make it. Remember that you are more than welcome to just switch out ingredients. You can use rotisserie chicken, chicken thighs, you know, really any other kind of meat that you like if you want to try that. If you want it really spicy, you can add in a small can of jalapenos. I really like mine cheesy, so you can always add in extra cheese, which I usually do. Let's see, you can use tortilla strips or chips, shredded cheese, and fresh cilantro if you're feeling a little fancy to kind of top it off. And then, like I said, if you guys have the time and you're feeling motivated, you can try making the whole thing with some fresh ingredients and create your own taco seasoning, which is also really good. So I hope you guys enjoy, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.